This is epidemiology in place. As we talked about in the last video, epidemiological variables can include time, place, and person. Place, a geographic extent of a problem. The residence of somebody, the birthplace, the place of employment, the school district, or the hospital. Country, state, county, census tracts, street addresses. Even urban versus rural, domestic versus foreign, institutional versus non-institutional. The most common of these are things like spot maps, which we will go into here in a little bit, as well as state maps looking at county rates and country state rates, country rates, etc. The spot map by John Snow. So this is a high probability boards question, so pay attention to this area specifically. Think of John Snow, cholera, and the Broad Street tap. In 1854, the theory of cholera was that it was bad air. In reality, cholera is caused by a fecal matter entering the drinking water supply. John Snow plotted out the cases using a spot map to prove the source was the water supply and not the bad air. This makes John Snow really the father of modern epidemiology. Now we can see over here in this map a number of features, but I'll show you the original map first. This was his original map that he used to locate where the problem was. Here's that map actually blown up today in more modern color schemes. We see these red dots. These red dots are typically showing where the location of an event happened, in this case, an instance where somebody had cholera. The size of those spots actually means the number of cases in that location. The bigger the spot, the more people who had that infection. Now we also see with the locations of actually taps, water taps that people were using to drink water from during this time period. If we look at actually where all the red spots are centered compared to what the tap's location is, we can actually start to localize where the source of the problem. This is what John Snow did, was he localized the problem of the tap that was infected with cholera based upon the amount and the location of the infections. Right there. Remember, people, when you're having a bad day, don't drink water close to poop. Here's another example where a more modern version of that. It's a state map. We don't use these a lot in optometry, but they can come up, especially in things like diabetes, where you might be seeing patients in one county with a relatively low instance of diabetes versus another county with a much higher rate. And so you can see a change in your patient population and the amount of diabetic retinopathy and diabetes you see based upon these maps. But we can also take that out to actually a much larger level. Here's at the state level across the country. And we can see that actually rates of diseases and disorders can actually vary based upon state as well. In this case, it's a myopia prevalence rate by state. The amount of myopia in these states is higher the more northern you go, and actually it's relatively lower in the more southern parts of the states. There's theories why this is, due to light levels as well as some other factors. But there is a variability of the amount of myopia based upon state. Here's a more localized region for us. Most of us live in Indiana, so we're going to talk about this example. Here's a plot of histoplasmosis by state. Histoplasmosis is a fungal infection that actually can go into your retina and do serious damage to that retina. It's very common in the Midwest, but not so common in other parts of the state. And it's caused by chicken poop. So here we are in Indiana, really kind of right at the center of where the histoplasmosis region is at. So you can expect that if you're going to practice in this area, you're going to see a lot more histoplasmosis. And that results in this kind of, when it's active, you can see on the right that larger inflammation area on the upper picture. And over time, after they've had it, you can see these things called histospots on the bottom that represent somebody who had histoplasmosis in the past. And we see a lot of these again throughout the Midwest. But if you decide to end up practicing out in the Midwest or out in the Southwest or California, you won't ever see it again. And so that's why knowing the prevalence of things and what's the chance of actually seeing that coming in your door can be helpful in treating and diagnosing patients. But don't feel like you're left out, California. You still have to look out for the plague. Now we can also look at these maps across the worldwide. Here's an example of trachoma. Trachoma is caused by an infection of the eye transmitted by flies that results in blinding disability to the cornea and to the anterior part of the eye. Thank you.